today.
One chocolate today.
Compare national state level, you would have to run non-sales, wholesale.
It is 9,000.
The only mistake I made, I didn't put it in the registration booth.
Just this ever-evolving story.
Welcome back to Let's Grow Pulling. I'm your host, Logan Stevens, alongside the lovely Bert Forbes. And we've got a pair of Davids on tonight. Good old Randy doing Randy things will join us later, but we're here to talk a little bit about a big old indoor pull coming up in Williamston, North Carolina. So, Bert, how's your day going?
Yeah, can't complain. It's just another great day in the farming world. It's like I said earlier, it's been like the weather saw highway patrolman, because we were about 70 degrees Saturday, David, when we were out there doing the display.
Yeah, it was nice weather out there.
And it's about 40 right now, so you know how it goes. But I tell you, we got a big show coming up this weekend at what we call the Dome, the Big Daddy Winter Nationals. David Whitley, he's the guy kind of putting this show on. He's kind of building this show up. His dad, Ken's been doing it for years. I think David's kind of taken over in the helm. And David, just give us a little rundown of what we're going to see this coming up weekend.
Oh, Williamston, the Winter Nationals, we're calling it now. It's a really good show. It's one of the, I think it is the only indoor truck and tractor pull in North Carolina. Really nice facility, heated indoors. It has a covered ring in the back for the pullers to park under and whatnot. We got built-in concessions there. We got plenty of good classes coming, a lot of high horsepower. And in a building like that, if you've never been to an indoor truck and tractor pull, it'll vibrate the seats. I think when you're it may have been David here that busted the lights out of the bathroom and shook the building so bad. The lady with the Ag Center, she always says she thanks us for coming because we always dust the rafters when we go through the doors at the finish line. So it's a pretty action-packed weekend.
Definitely does sound like it there. And speaking of high horsepower, we got one of high horsepower owned, David Carlton, here with us. Tell us a little bit about what he's bringing. David, let's jump right into that. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you bringing?
I'm David Carlton. I farm. We farm about the family farm. We got about 2,500 acres. We grow corn, soybeans. Wheat is a cover. Rye is a cover crop. And then we have me and my wife. We have two pulling trucks. One is Breathe Easy, and the other one is Side Piece. And Side Piece won't make it this weekend. We're getting it ready for the farm show, and but Breathe Easy will be there. So ready to go.
Got one truck into what some call one of the biggest pulls of the year, the Big Dance, and bringing the other one just to come have some fun in the middle of the winter. Bert, what makes a middle of the winter event special like this?
Well, in North Carolina, everybody's used to pulling from April to October, but, all those tractor pull fans, we like something. We got to smell a little methanol. We got to smell a little bit of that good old gas. And this is one place that you can go do it. Great food vendors. And folks, a lot of people, they think you're going to an indoor pull. It's going to be cool this weekend, but I promise you, in the stands, they've got heaters all up there. You're going to stay warm. So don't worry about it. Come on out. If you can't come, go watch it on Full Pull Live. That is going to be live streaming. We're going to be down there doing some live streaming and talking to some of the pullers. So I know David's ready for a good old interview between me and Jason Schultz. We'll get the 100 questions out. David, what's the big thing that you like about this pull? What do you like about going to the Dome?
You talking to me or David Whitley?
David called me.
We got to find a better way to name these guys. David wanted.
You can call me Jelly. That's everybody calls me that. That's my nickname. So that might clarify things. So
okay, we'll go back to what we normally call you. How about that?
there you
Jelly,
go.
Yeah, what you think, Jelly? What is it about this bull makes it worth your while?
Well, one thing is close to home, and you get a lot of fans that like you say that don't have, might not get out during the summer, that they get time to get away and watch to go to the pools. So in the wintertime, it's looking for something to do. I think you call it cabin fever. They want to get out, and I like going to see people. You see, and the kids, you get to see the kids, coming around, and then when they have the pit party. And all that, signing autographs, stuff like that. It's just something to do. I know we've been pulling. We just come back last weekend, and we had a good time at Kentucky. So, it's not that we need to get in and go pulling, but we like pulling. If I could pull every weekend somewhere, it'd be great. But we can't do that.
Well, I think that's what everybody wishes they could do. I don't know if my boss would like that too much if I did that every weekend of the year. But, David, you've had a spectacular 2025. We were talking about this before the show started. You won the UPOC Points Championship, and now you're going to the big dance. And that UPOC Championship, NTPA state level, that's a pretty tough one to get because you got some tough competitors that you're pulling against with the Lees, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, you've just got some tough trucks in that class. We talked about this earlier. What kind of turned that truck on? What got that truck really running? Did you figure out something or just find a happy spot?
Well, we tuned a little bit more on the motor. We went to, I hate to say it, but we went to Farley, and we got our butts handed to us pretty good out there. And I learned a lot. That was the key to it. We learned a lot of things, and we turned the truck. I tweaked on it some here and there, and when we come home, we put that stuff we tried it to see if it would work here, and that truck loved it. Whatever we done, it loved it, and it's been good. We put tires on at the beginning of the season. It took us a little bit of time to figure out what we needed, gear wise, air pressure, stuff like that. But the truck turned on, the motor started running good, and everything, like, it gelled. It was like a perfectly good old machine. But other than that, we didn't have no breakages. That's good in this sport, not to have any breakages.
Well, I got a video of your run from the indoor nationals that they had there a couple weeks back. So why don't we take a good look at this and you can tell us a little bit about your run.
Yeah, it was a good run. It was only a few things I could have changed. I think we could have lightened the front end up a little bit more. I didn't get it out off the starting line, and that's the key. You got to get the sled moving. You notice the truck did not pick the front end up until I got over 100 feet. It just didn't plant. So, but if I could have lightened the front end up a little bit, I know everybody said, well, the front end was up already, but at the end of the track, but I think you got to get to moving and to make your transition weight. So, but other than that, I wouldn't have changed too much more. I would have come back and made another run.
Is there anything different that you do compared to an outdoor track to an indoor track? Because I know most indoor tracks are a little bit shorter. They stop around that 250-foot mark.
Yeah, and most of the time, you got the different type of soil. The dirt that's in an indoor track is not as good as outdoor. Other than probably going to Louisville to the farm show, to the big dance, that's probably the best dirt around, even compared to any track outside. And the key to it, like I said, them first 50 feet, and you got to get after it quicker on the throttle. I mean, you can't waste no time because the sled's going to be hitting you quicker. So you got to be getting the ground speed there to get going. So, getting the truck hooked quick is the main thing indoors.
So we're going to see the Breathe Easy truck coming down here to the Dome this weekend. Are you just going to have a little fun? Or are you going to be doing a little testing with that truck too? Because I know it seemed like most of your focus last year was with side piece.
Yeah, we had the test. We're going to test there. I got a few things I'm going to try. We changed a few things. We changed the motor program again since we run outdoors. The first runs on that motor was at Lexington at the horse park. So, and it done its job there. This Saturday night in the finals, the truck did not get off the starting line nowhere near as good as side piece did, and that's what I think killed that truck there. It just didn't transition the weight quick enough, and we've been fighting that issue with that truck all 25, and we've made a few changes. I think it's helped it, but we'll see. We'll see when we get on some better dirt to find out if we've really fixed the problem.
Yeah, very much so. There's a lot of factors that goes into making a good pass and tossing a truck up there to challenge for a win. So very, very good on that side of it. Let's catch him on a couple comments here. Ken Whitley says that we need to roll the red carpet out for Jelly this year. So we'll see what you guys can pull together on that. But
I'm gonna leave that up to him. I'm not getting into that.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we heard what's coming. What are the top 5 things we need to know about the event coming up this weekend, David Whitley?
Oh, top 5 things need to know about it. I'd probably say, it's going to be a heated indoors event. Us on the floor will be a little cold because the door's going to be open to get these trucks in and out, but everybody in the bleachers is going to be nice and warm. Friday night's going to be kids' night. We're going to be letting kids 10 and under in for free on Fridays. A lot of people don't know that. I get a lot of questions all the time asking, does my kid need a ticket, if they're 5 or 6 years old. And they haven't realized that 10 and under get in for free. So we do that, try to, get the families out on Friday night. Friday's always a little bit your slower show. Everybody's normally going out on the weekend. So we do that on Friday, try to get some families out, and it seems to help, and everybody likes it. Another thing, if you're bringing a kid, you need to bring some ear protection. These two-wheel drives get very loud in this building. Very cool to watch, but we do have some ear protection available there. But just something to keep in mind, if you're going to bring, 4 or 5-year-old down to infants or whatever. Normally we don't see a whole lot of infants at an event like this, but nonetheless, everybody needs to wear ear protection, for the two-wheel drive class. 2 more things. Let me think. It's a fun event overall. I could sit here and talk all day about it, but it's a family-oriented event. If you show up at 6:30, we get pulling at 7:30, but if you show up about an hour early, we open the doors at 6:30 and we have a pit party. You get a chance to walk around, check out the machines that are going to be there, meet the drivers, get some autographs. We kind of roll some trucks out towards the center of it. Not something you get a chance to do very often, but you can get up close to the sled and take a look at it and see how it works too. So,
yeah. So let's pull this banner up here and walk us through what classes we're going to see.
So we normally start off with some antique tractors. We got 4 or 5 coming that are pretty local. They are your old school. They're antique looking. They're fairly slow, but it's something neat to watch. It gives you a bit of a look at what it used to be like when pulling first got started. All this kind of stuff started with a couple farmers that wanted to know whose tractor had the most power. So they hooked up to some old big piece of steel, or one time I heard it was a Cadillac in the field, but they would dump some weight into it and see who could pull the furthest, and that grew into this sport. So that's a neat class to watch. We got Jelly's class coming in with a blower 2-wheel drives, the super modifieds, one of the highest horsepower classes I think there is in the pulling, except for, you got the 3 or 4 engine mods out there in Ohio and whatnot. We got my class, the Sportsman 4-wheel drives. We call them nationals at this event. There's 650 cubic inch limit 4-wheel drive truck, got the cut tires on them. Pretty cool to watch. As these things get going down the track, they'll kind of lean on back, and you can see when they hook, and we normally carry it pretty far on past that door at the finish line. We got one of our favorite classes. We got the wheel stand and mega trucks. We got 4 or 5 of those trucks coming. When these things get that chain tight and they stand up right at the beginning of the track, it's always neat to see the crowd's reaction. You get to the finish line and they stand them up again, and sometimes they'll hit the brakes and put their hands out the window while the truck's still sitting up in the air. So that's always a fun class. They get a little squirrely sometimes, so you got to keep your eyes open, keep an eye on them when they're going down the track, because they ain't no telling what you're going to see with these things. We got some V8 modified tractors coming. Very competitive class. I see it most up there in Virginia with Dragon Motorsports. It's a small block motor in a tractor frame. They still use a tractor rear ends in those things. A lot of nice looking tractors. They do fairly well, and it's one of the better tractor classes, in my opinion, that you can see that we can have at this event. Being indoors, we can't have the diesels, unfortunately. And then we'll be going into some street trucks. We call them street gas, but I say that very lightly. They look like street trucks, but everybody's gotten a little crazy with those things. But it's cool to watch some things. You'll see a truck that, hell, I think one guy is going to be pulling his truck with his other street gas truck, unhooking it, and then hooking it up to the sled. And he does pretty good with that thing too. You'd be very surprised. So just keep an eye out for those trucks. We got everything from a pretty close to a street truck to some pretty high horsepower things coming. They all run in the same class. But some of these guys, it's crazy what they do with these things. I know one of my buddies who runs in this class. He drives it back and forth to work, and then he will drive it all the way to Virginia and hook it to the sled, go 320 foot, and then drive it back up.
I think you know what his gas mileage is.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. It's a fairly new truck also.
Wow. That's the cool thing about this with that pit party. It's worth walking around. In fact, the picture in the background that was taken last year during the pit party, and to see how big some of these trucks are, and like the picture we used yesterday on day 5 was actually your side piece truck with the blower hat, and just look at all the technology. Everybody's like, pulling this tractor pulling, but if you go look at the technology with the tires, the types of rear ends, and this, Logan, is a mini rod guy, the technology in minis has just exploded in the last few years. But the engine and drivetrain and chassis technology, what people are doing just to try to get just a few more feet, you'll be able to see that up close and personal. And you'll see everything in the National 4-wheel drive class, like me and David were talking Saturday. They can run injection or they can run carbureted. But it's just whatever works for those guys. And you'll see how different combinations of stuff will benefit one guy from one night to the other, just depending on track condition. So that's the cool thing about this, being able to see everything up close and personal.
Yeah, just the way that the sport's progressed over the past couple years. I mean, the sport continues on the up and up, and there's no doubt that some might disagree with me, but I think this is the heyday of the sport. People are pushing harder than ever to make the sport bigger. So I think this is truly a great part of the sport that we're in.
David, we talked about this the other day or Saturday. What is the biggest thing you're hoping? You're taking this show and you've kind of taken it on. Your dad still helps you, but you're kind of taking it on yourself. What is your goal, say, in 3 or 4 years with this show? Where would you like to see the Big Daddy Winter Nationals be in 3 or 4 years?
We had talked about this Saturday, and I haven't ironed out all the details, but I'm starting the process on it. I'm going to be going to look at a couple new facilities, but I'd like to turn this one event we do in the winter into a part of a multi-pole series we do between South Carolina and Virginia at some indoor events. I'm hoping to shoot for January to March before the season starts up. I'd like to open this pool up some more, have more trucks there. I was thinking about using it as a qualifier for the winter series, actually. But the biggest thing is, I want to bring more awareness to the event. We've been doing it for 27 years now, so it's been around for a long time. And we're starting to update what we do as far as advertising. We're doing online ticket sales this year. We're taking card at the door this time. But I'm looking to grow the pool, bring awareness to the sport. On the eastern side of North Carolina, it seems like there's not that many pools to go to anymore. We do one at Dixieland Speedway in Elizabeth City. They used to do one that was one of the biggest pulls in North Carolina, I think, was the Pine Tops pull. But they quit doing that a couple of years ago. So I think from east of Raleigh, we're about one of the few pulls, if not one of the only organizations that put pulls on over here, if I'm thinking correct. Is that right, Bert?
I mean, yeah, you've got Wilson, you've got Lumberton, but pretty much everything else is west of that I-95 corridor.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, you know, I'm trying to get
27 years
in our area.
is a long time to be doing something. And
Yes,
I
it
know another guy that's getting up there with stuff. The one, the only, Randy Fishbaugh. Where did he go?
hey,
I'm here.
There's the
Yeah.
old Randy.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Had a little township meeting tonight, and then I had some technical difficulties. But hey, it's great to see everyone. That's for sure. So,
Well, we're glad to have you back. Sounds like you've had a busy couple weeks with stuff. So
sure. Yeah, it's been a busy one. That's for sure. Trying to keep everything in check. Cold weather up here makes life a little bit miserable, you know. So, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good. So I'll just listen in here, just chime in a little bit. But sounds like you guys got it going on. That's for sure. So,
David Whitley, this is the slug guy that I bring up of last time. This is the one, the only Randy. This is your ticket into the blown mini rod world with this guy.
I thought I recognized that name.
Yeah, we have we bought Vaughn and Lori's the purple sled. We bought it just about a year ago now. So we got it home. 4th of July weekend was our first. We debuted it in my hometown, Greenwich, Ohio. So it's a lot of fun for sure. And, we're learning a lot with it, but it's a lot of fun. And the minis, you can't hardly beat them. You can't go wrong with a mini rod show. That's for sure. So not just because I have the sled, but they're just a lot of fun, you know. And they really are. So sounds like there's a lot of them being built up here. 4 or 5 new ones in Ohio this summer, I think. Yeah,
we got a couple more coming out down here too, where they bought chassis that have been sitting for a couple of years. So it's, you know, it looks like the numbers are starting to come up a little bit in the mini rod class. And we got one puller that took a little time off. He had some eye surgery, and he's coming back this coming up year. So it'll be good to see that tractor back. So it's looking good down here in the South for some better numbers than what we've had in the past.
It sounds like Jelly needs one to me, is what I'm hearing.
I had one, and my wife made me sell it before I got to run it.
That's no fun.
Well, did you do all right though? Did you make money on it before you ran it?
I wouldn't say made no money. We didn't get hurt too bad, but we painted it. It was the same color as side piece, and that was the behind it. I got the phone call from Johnny Wynn just before Christmas of that year, and we was planning on running that mini that upcoming year, and then Johnny, because I told Johnny I wanted to, it let me know if he ever sold the two-wheeler that he had. It was bad attitude then. It was blue and white, and then he surprised me and called me. We was actually delivering the mini to Jason Gibson at C&G Motorsports. They were going to put the motor in, and we were going to get it all right, and we were going to debut it that coming pulling season. And we had it already painted. It was painted up to burgundy, candy apple red, I guess you want to say, and it was going to be called the Little Virginia Farmer. So, but it never got its debut. It got sold. It got sold before it, because I went and picked up the truck from Johnny, and then we actually run that at Florida in that January after that. Well, the first time, and actually we actually run it at Williamston the first time. It was blue and white. We run it at Williamston that year. I can't remember the year, but and I think we finished like third that night.
So where's the tractor set at to today? If Jelly's still with us.
I think we lost Jelly.
I think we lost him.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to that.
Yeah,
sure. For sure. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there we go.
Hey,
But,
where's the tractor set at to today, Jelly?
It was sold to. It went overseas.
Ah,
Gone.
I heard over, and that's I assume overseas.
Overseas, and that's
somewhere overseas.
That's where they lost the scent.
That's where we lost the signal. What the heck?
Oh, there he is.
Let me switch this back.
Yeah, that's and there for a while, it was hard to get parts here in the States for mini rods. So, because a lot of stuff was getting sold overseas. If you had certain rear ends or certain chassis, man, they were buying it up like crazy over there. Which we all know how the European pullers are. They get a little crazy with the V12s and all the other stuff on the mini rods. That'd be kind of cool to see here in the States.
They definitely go all out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's catch up on a couple comments here. Chris Kilbarger, can they spray in the quote-unquote street class? I take that's in reference to nitrous on these trucks.
If
you can hide it good enough, is that applicable?
Normally, we don't allow any nitrous, but what they do outside of Williamston, I can't speak on, but I know there's a few that have dabbled into it at least.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying kind of deal. It only is
Yeah,
bad.
they try to a little crazy, but I think everybody in the class is cool with it. Everybody's there to have a fun time. There's a whole lot of gray area in that class, I guess you could say.
Randy, you coming to the Midwest Winter Nationals there at Cloverdale this weekend?
I don't know.
Where are you going to be this weekend?
We haven't. Chase and I had talked about it, but we got fair managers. Ohio Fair Managers starts Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we talked about it. Then they're like, "Oh, we got fair managers." So we will be tied up at fair managers trying to get our 44, 45 events all laid out and scheduled up. And so we're going to be pretty busy this weekend. So we're going to miss it. So we'd like to go. We talk about it. Hopefully we can do their live stream and watch it. So we'll be there. We'll be there, but we won't be there physically.
Be there in spirits.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, a whole bunch of big events happening all across the country.
Yeah, for sure.
Bert, I know we got a little sidetrack there. Where were we?
Well, we were talking about the mini rod that got shipped to Europe as the last that we got on that. But, David, I want to talk to Jelly, too, about this. But, David, we were talking about in your class, what is, that class is pretty tight. You were talking about with Dragon last year, you only won, 4 events? But you still won the points. That's how tight it was.
Yeah, it was a very tight year. Honestly, I think this class that I run in is probably the most competitive as far as, anybody could win any given night class in the Dragon Motorsports Association that I run in. You see a lot of different combinations. You got guys running old square body Chevy frames, old Ford frames. Michael Schiffley, who was on here last Monday, he's got an old Ford frame on that thing. But you got a lot of older trucks. You got some newer trucks, tube chassis, C-channel frames. You got gas motors, you got alcohol motors, you got Fords, you got Chevys. There's a whole lot of different combinations. And I think everybody just about is on a pretty level playing field for all the difference in the class. But any given pull, we'll have 10, 12, 14 trucks there. And just about every truck that shows up could take home the number one that night, especially depending on the track. I want to say we ran a total of 12 hooks, and I think I won 3, maybe 4, and I was able to pull off the points. Towards the end, it was getting fairly close. There was 2 trucks in the class that were right up on me, and one of the guys, he blew his motor up and switched out for another one. I think he had a little bit of a disadvantage. I'm not so sure that he wouldn't have caught me if he didn't do that. But, it's a real fun, very competitive class, and the neat thing about it is you get a lot of the older trucks that used to be competitive that aren't anymore as far as the Grand National Series goes. If they're still running an old wedge motor with the factory bore space and no Hemi heads, you can bring that truck out and run with us. And it keeps it a little bit more affordable. It gets some of the older trucks that aren't pulling anymore, gets them back out of the garages and, back around again and getting cleaned up. So it's a neat class to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely a class there watching. Just even over this past week, I've done a little bit more digging on your guys' national versus grand national 4-wheel drive truck class. And that's a pretty interesting stepping stone into the world of truck pulling for those who don't really know much about it. So, I mean, huge stuff coming up. Comments just keep rolling in with stuff. Bert, you will be covering with Full Pull Live the Big Daddy Show.
Yeah,
tell
it'll
us a
be
little bit about the live stream and the ticket sales.
okay. So as far as the live stream goes, that's going to be on Full Pull Live. That's a monthly subscription, $39.99, and you can watch this show along with Bowling Green last year, or you name the event, it's probably on there. Everything from state, local stuff to what we call, and I hate to use this, I should come up with a different term, like brush pulling, or not your national classes. But let me tell you something. We were talking about the classic modifieds. That has become one of my favorite classes to watch. We have it over there in the western part of the state, and that class is kind of like your four-wheel drive class. It's a tight class. They all run a small blocks. You don't know who's going to win, and it's more or less whoever gets the whole shot is going to pull it out. So Full Pull has you covered everything from antiques all the way up to Grand National stuff. Any kind of everything from single engine, naturally aspirated to multi-engine modifieds. If you want to watch pulling, Full Pull Live is the place to go. But if you want to see pulling action this weekend, you definitely got to be at the Dome. It's $20 to get in the gate, but like we were talking about, David, you can literally go to the Holiday Inn across the street from the track, from the event, from the Dome, from the Bob Martin Ag Center, buy your advance ticket in the lobby 5 minutes before the show starts for $15 and walk right in the gate. So, there is no restriction on stopping the sales. It's definitely worth going, folks. Get you out of the house, smell that methanol, see some dirt flying. You get to see that kind of excitement here in the wintertime. You definitely want to check it out because there's going to be some tough trucks. It's going to get noisy, but there's a phrase that I always say: if it's too loud, you're too old. And it's definitely not going to be too loud.
That's awesome. J.R. Rolfe, he'd like to see some more pulls around the 58 corridor and the economy two-wheel drive class. Where's that at, you guys? Where's the good old 58?
He's talking about.
I have to pull up my old map here.
Yes.
Did you use the QR code on this event, Bert? Did you guys have the QR code out and see if you could track any of that stuff?
So we did. I was kind of late in the game in this whole setup. So
okay.
Yeah, Will Witt did. The Flyers did a phenomenal job on that, and I don't think y'all even posted any flyers. We didn't. You got a few banners out, but we talked about that Saturday about next year designing some bigger banners with the QR codes and getting that stuff out because we've seen a big hit as far as that goes in the other event. So that's something we're definitely going to look at for next year.
Yeah, to touch up on JR's comment, the old economy two-wheel drive class. Bert, I know you probably remember that one, don't you?
Yeah.
That was a really fun class. It was a naturally aspirated two-wheel drive. We ran the cut tires on the back, but they'd always put on a really good show. The class kind of died off, but I remember when I was fairly young, and rumor has it there's a couple guys building some trucks to bring that class back out. So if we can get some more trucks, I think that would be a cool class to see some participation come up in. I think you could get some more pulls out of it, but it's one that I would definitely like to see come back. It's a very economical class. Economy two-wheel drive is in the name. So, but everybody in the class used to have a good old time. It was a fun one to watch. They always did a wheelie.
Well, and that's one thing about the sport. Everybody, we were talking about prices, and you were talking to people Saturday at Walmart, David, and what it takes to get into the sport. I feel like if there were some stepping stones, maybe a little bit easier to get in the sport, maybe not cost quite as much because used to you can put you could take a small block mini rod or a small block two-wheel drive or something like that and put in a class where somebody could have 10 or 15 grand in it and get started, and then you sell that and you step up a little bit here, step up a little bit there, and I feel like you'll see numbers starting to grow, especially up on that state level, and maybe that's what we need to look at.
So looking at map here, and JR confirmed that 58 goes east-west there, Virginia, North Carolina. Bert, you know that area real well. That's right up your alley with stuff. What do you got?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing with most promoters, and it's like any promoter, and we talked about this too again, David, is, you got to be able to break even or make a little bit out of all the stuff you're putting in. And it takes a lot, between purse, venue. If you go to an outdoor place and you got to, rent the Porta Johns, you got to do all the advertising, you got to bring in the food vendors, which most of the time, you make a little bit off of that, but you got to look at all your costs. And it's getting hard here in Eastern North Carolina with a lot of places to have a pulling venue because of the subdivisions and the houses that are being put up. Because a lot of the farmland and the old tracks that we used to have around here are kind of getting filled up with subdivisions and houses. And as we've talked about before, some of the people don't like all the noise, so it's just, if you're looking to get in to do a small show, contact somebody. Contact us here, contact David, talk to people, talk to other promoters, and they'll tell you what works for them. And that's what it almost needs to be, a community. And we did this all last month with talking to different promoters from grand national level to state level to local level. And a lot of the same things work. We just kind of got to work together to build that up and get that door opened.
Yeah, I'd love to see nothing more than, some more brush pulls get popping back up on Eastern North Carolina and try to get pulling back on this side of the state. It used to be fairly big, and back in the day, it was always, North Carolina had all the pulls, and the guys from Virginia would have to come down here. Well, now it's the opposite, at least for me. Over here in Elizabeth City, the closest circuit, day in, day out to me is actually, 3-4 hours away. I think the closest one is Tappahannock, which is 2.5 hours from me. Real good organization, but, like UPOC, they do Wilson and Raleigh and whatnot. And some of the other pools, they're 6-7 hours away from me. And that's a bit of a stretch. You'd have to make it a whole weekend. You'd have to leave Thursday to get there and still have some time to unload and take care of your truck and whatnot. So if we could get a small series going on the Eastern North Carolina, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome, having the stepping stone there. And then just getting the more people you can get into the sport is really where it's at with stuff. I see Jelly's back, so let's bring him back in.
Hey. Sure. Hey, I had a little technical difficulty. Other than that, we're good.
Yeah.
I can run a 2,500 horsepower truck, but I can't run a phone.
Yeah. Those are two different wheelhouses with stuff. This hasn't got a whole bunch of pistons. As with anything, Jeremy Tyndall making the point that Jason Brahmer or Brant, how do you say that back when you're from
Brammer? Yeah, Brammer.
Brammer?
Yeah.
Got to get that Kentucky.
Yeah.
Go on. Louisville. Brammer.
Louisville.
Yeah. Getting ready to go to Louisville.
What won the points that year, never won a hook. It's great seeing the older chassis into it. But this one's for you there, David. Do you know if RB Muller will be bringing his new War Wagon truck?
I didn't even know RB bought another truck. I'm not very surprised. That guy's been doing some serious investment into truck pulling these last 2 years. But, oh, man, that makes it – if he's planning on running a fifth truck, hats off to him, but I couldn't be doing it. But, no, unfortunately, RB won't be at this pull. I believe, from what I understand, I actually talked to him today, he's putting Hemis in all of his trucks, which is a very long step, especially for one person. But no, most of the guys in our class, we run that factory bore space non-Hemi head. So RB won't fit in the rules here. I would love to see him. He's always been coming to our pools for as long as I can remember. I bet he's been there since before I could actually remember too. So, we've been talking about doing something. We may do like a wedge versus Hemi shootout one year to get some Hemi trucks back in there. It's hard to have a Hemi class and a non-Hemi class because the trucks are two very similar classes. The only difference is the power plant. So not too entertaining for the crowd to watch two classes that are almost identical. But that's neat that he bought another truck, man.
And the war wagon of all trucks, because that is that's a bad truck. That truck is tough.
RB is a pretty tough puller too. He bought that red, what does he call it? A Red Rock. That's the first semi truck he ever had. And Bert, you may know more about this than me, but I think he won 3 or 4 point series with that same truck the first full year he ran it. Is that right?
He won. It seemed like he won everything. I don't know the exact numbers, but it seemed like there for a while he won everything. He went to the NC State Fair last year, and between the two trucks, and I hope RB's not watching right now. The old yellow submarine is what I call it. That old yellow Dodge. I mean that poor truck is. I bet you there's more miles on that truck on a track than most people have on their cars, because that truck has run some tracks.
One thing about RB, if there is a pull and he ain't got nothing to do that weekend, he is pulling. And if he does have something to do that weekend, he's probably also still going to go pulling.
Yeah. That's just awesome with that.
Yeah.
Georgia's still running naturally aspirated two-wheeler. There's some around up in my neck of the woods out here in Kansas, Midwest, that still big with that. The Outlaws still have the class. So there's definitely still a good base of them. California, you're starting to see some of them pop up out there.
Yep.
As with anything, feeder classes are essential to a pulling group. And that's something I see down here we need to also address is looking at kind of what constitutes a national vehicle, a state level vehicle, and a local vehicle. Because like with what Randy saw, not discounting any pulling organization or any of the vehicles there, but the disconnect between what it takes to run the Grand National circuit, but yet you're still pulling on a state level circuit with the Grand National guys. Just, it makes it hard to get into the class at the state organization when you're pulling against the Grand National guys. And Randy sees this all the time with his stuff. So nothing too new, but what's your thoughts on it, Randy?
Yeah, right here at home, a lot of our, the minis class and all of our classes, Jeremy with the Pro Stock, we have a lot of, and Hertz around with the Super, and the Keeners have their Supers. A lot of our vehicles, when they go Grand National pulling or Champions Tour pulling, they're in the top, they're in the top third every night, and Hertz in the neighborhood, he's a national points champion. We have a lot of those guys that come and play with us every night, here and there. And so it's tough to determine what, when you got those guys coming to the state level, and then our guys have stepped it up a lot. So our stuff is really tough to tell. There's not really, it's a very fine line in Ohio where to draw that, because a lot of our guys they could go out. I think we could take all of our Ohio guys out and go run the national circuit, and they'd all be real competitive. And like I say, that's a bad for anybody just trying to get into it, because, it gives them a real eye opener, for sure. It's tough. There's no doubt about it. So
let's spend a second and talk about that, because we got promoters and pullers from all walks of motorsports here. Do you guys think, just kind of round table, does there need to be a separate set of rules to run state level versus Grand National? Not that it's a super big change, but just a change that makes it inconveniencing enough to pull with a different group of guys, whether it be different supercharger sizes or what have you with stuff.
I personally, go ahead. No, go ahead, Dave.
I'd say, if we were to make a division like that, I definitely think it would help some of the smaller state level pulls get their truck counts up. It would make it more affordable for the guys that don't want to travel all over the United States to pull. Because it's tough. If you have a Grand National level truck, you're going to want to travel all over the United States to go to all the big name pulls and be competitive. If obviously you have a truck on that level, you're probably going to go. But at the same time, that's a bit intimidating for somebody that may be looking to step up into that class, because if somebody doesn't have the interest to do a Grand National level truck, you're just not going to be competitive in some of those classes. And that makes it a bit tough. And I think that's driving some of the vehicle count down. Like somebody in the comments that said, you always need a feeder class, and that, goes all the way up to some of the larger classes too. You got to make it where it's economic enough where somebody that's already into it could make it affordable to step up to the next class. And the feeder class is something like that. That's how you keep pulling alive the smaller classes that somebody could build a truck in their garage, at their house, build it outside. A cheap truck, $10,000, $15,000 to have a competitive truck. That's what gets your truck counts back up.
One piece of advice that I've always carried with me, and it was from the words of Travis Slawbaugh. Just a little interesting fact that he goes, them and some of their guys have found it easier to run the Grand National circuit than the state level circuit, just because you're out for a dedicated amount of time and you're not going out, pulling Friday night, getting back at 2 a.m., driving it in, and then going right back out the next night, Saturday, staying out, driving it in late kind of deal. You're there, you're parked, and then it's just a lot more relaxing. That's just a little interesting tidbit that I've always heard over the years with stuff.
Well, here in North Carolina, especially with UPOC, a lot of their events are 2-day events. So, in fact, all of them, I think, except for Mount Olive, and NTPA boys brought up a good point. They're bringing on Roanoke Rapids this year. They got Mount Olive and Lumberton all the way down on the south end. But the biggest thing that I guess you can say that I see with that is, you were talking like Grand National in Ohio, and I've done this with my cousin Jamie, just making a loop, I guess you would say. You'll pull here one night, then go an hour away, pull there the next night. But here, like in North Carolina, Georgia, western part of the state, a lot of these pulls are 2-day pulls. So once we get there on Friday, we're there Friday and Saturday. And I know that's different than a lot of places in the country, which seems to, our pullers love that because, like you said, they're there for 2 days.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Anytime you can get a 2-day event, it just makes it easier on the pullers with stuff. Someone else was piping in there about running 2 different rule sets, or I don't know if it was Randy or Jelly, but
well, I don't know. For me, as a promoter, back in the day when I was just a promoter at the county fair, I always tried to get Jeff to come. And we used to get Sean Swearingen and Don Nelson and then all the Nelson guys with the 2-wheel drives. It was always we always really tried to get some of them Grand National pullers just to stop in to come and see our fair and then support us a lot. So, and they were there, just, one night and for the whole year in Ohio, but, they'd stop in and see us and maybe they'd try a few things. That was back before. I mean, it was probably all relevant before it got to be quite as expensive as it is now, but those guys would stop in and, Bill Leschner and Shannon, they were here with the Dirt Slinger. So we had a lot of those big pullers stop in at our little local fair. And a lot of the fans on the other side, they really enjoy seeing those guys come to the local level. And if you would change that up where they couldn't come and pull, like if Jeff couldn't bring the Super or bring the Minis because he had to change blowers and stuff, they probably would never show up. So that's, it's a fine line. I understand what you're saying, Dave, about that, but it's a fine line. People, the people who are supporting you, the spectators, they really like seeing those national pullers stop in, and especially in Ohio, it's, a lot of the places are one price. So you get in the pits and they go over there and get to shake hands and get up close to some of them national pullers. And it's a big deal. And you really hear them scuttle about it in those little, we got a lot of towns that are only 12, 1,500 people. And that's the real deal when they get those guys here, So,
I 100% agree with that. That's what I enjoy, little questions like that, just to get people thinking. I mean, it's one of those deals where I know not all classes are like this, but between the minis and the 2-wheelers, those might be the 2 most widespread rules all across the country. And you can show up and pull anywhere. So
sure.
Being able to do that from a puller's perspective makes it a lot easier to say, oh, we're just passing through. Might as well just stop in and say hi to Randy and hit an event or 2 with those guys, because that's what makes pulling fun. So,
well, David, we were talking about a little bit this weekend, how you're mixing it up with your national 4-wheel drives, but you're bringing in the blown 2-wheel drives. And then we were talking about possibly, being able to bring in the mini rods, the blown mini rods next year or at a later date. And I think that's what David's kind of trying to do is definitely support his local pullers, but push, if we can bring in something different from year to year. Because David, you even said it about the ride truck. You bring that for a couple of years, and in some years you don't bring it just because you don't want things to get old and stale. You want things to constantly change and grow.
Yeah, I feel like with an event like this, you always have to rotate some stuff out. We got people that have been coming to this event every year since we started doing it. And, if you have the same class every year, it gets to be a bit repetitive. So you have to change it up some, if you're talking about doing the whole split between Grand National versus state level, I definitely think it's still a place to have the Grand National trucks at some events. And that would be another way to mix it up some. You could support your local guys at some pools. Some pools you could have the Grand Nationals at the larger events like the Raleigh State Fair and whatnot. But we try to do the same thing at our event. We have a ride truck. It kind of depends on whenever we feel like building one. But we'll have a couple of years where we have a ride truck. We ride all the kids for free during the pit party and whatnot. And then we won't have it for a couple of years. That way, when you bring it back, it brings a little bit of more spark to the event. Same thing with the different classes. We've had different classes throughout the years. And I think that helps keep some people entertained and the interest in the pool, especially at an event like this in the winter with an indoor event.
Jelly, from a driver's perspective, what do you think? What is your thoughts on how the classes are kind of laid out from a state and a Grand National level? From a driver's perspective, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, the two-wheel drive is like he said a while ago. They're kind of between them and the minis are kind of equal in pretty much every organization that we can go run. We can kind of go run anywhere we want, and that makes it easier for us. But then I see what y'all are saying about the local tracks. You can't. Some guys are not going to come and run just because it's a local pool. If they don't, even if they have a class, you might be the best thing there, but you still got to run, and you want to come to put on a show. I mean, that's the main thing. We want to make sure that the fans get what they want to come see. And, as driving, the pay is there. We're not doing it for the money. Let's put it that way. We know we're not making a killing with that. But to make the fans happy and see a smile on the kid's face when they get to come and look at the truck at the end of the run or something like that, that part is what you gotta look at. And I like the two-wheel drive we were talking about earlier. You can stop anyway. We got rained out. We went to Kentucky just before we went to Farley, and we got rained out. We was going to TNT, and we actually left and went to a pull in Ohio at the Dragway 42. I think is. Not exactly sure.
Yes,
and we went there and we had a real good finish there with both trucks. And that was our tune up, I guess, for to go to Farley. But by the results at Farley, it didn't pan out like I wanted. But but yeah, it was a nice facility, and we got treated, I mean, like we were family. When we pulled in the door, everybody, that's what I like about pulling. When you can go and sit down and have a conversation with a local puller that don't know you from nobody, and everybody treats you just like family. So that's what I love about pulling. So
yep.
Yeah. So, well, we're here with David and David talking about the Williamston Big Daddy pull coming up here. They've nicknamed it the Winter Nationals. So we're just having fun, big old round table here. What else do you guys want to cover on the great event coming up this weekend?
What do you got, Bert? What else you want to talk about?
Well, before we get on the Big Daddy thing, I want to talk a little bit about this as a two-wheel drive thing. What's the deal with the tires? I've heard some speculation on some tires. Yeah, I got to stir up something. I mean,
Well, the rule NTPA rules read the tire width is 19 and a half inches, right, and the rollout is 143. Well, everybody said when the Nichols come out with the new tires that they were too wide and they were too big, and we still stayed in that measurement requirements that they said. but I think the key to it is that, some people hit on it and got the setup right. My hat's off to Russ Nichols and Bob and all of them at Nichols Tire. They done the homework. They got a good tire, and looked like it was a few trucks that hit the setup perfect, and some of them has been struggling. And we were one that we looked like we hit the setup, but it was a lot. It won't just the tire. We had to set the truck up to the tires. It's not that the tires are bigger or whatever, but I mean, we'll see what they gonna do with the ruling. I want everything to be fair, but I mean, it's not like we was cheating. We bought the tires from them, and we put them on the truck and went running. So the truck was checked. Both of mine was checked at Farley, and it was that was the best check you could get, because we rolled it inside of a building, and the only person that was in there was me and the officials, and they went over that thing from stem to stern, and it was passed. Both of my trucks passed flying colors. So, and they measured tires and everything. So I feel that we was fair,
Yeah, that's the deal. Farley second to none on how they ran their teching system. Do you feel with the way that the tires went with the two-wheeler that some guys think you're kind of right back in the place you were before the Nichols, just made everyone buy the set of tires and
I think you're, yeah, I think it's happening the same way it did. I don't know what year it was, but I know that Marvin Epson said at Riley that CPAC come up with a tire back in the 80s. That's all they done. I mean, it went from a Firestone tire, tractor tire, right, to the CPAC giant pullers. And if you were going to compete and run up front, you had to buy a set, or if not, you was going to be last. You were going to finish last. And I seem to think that's the same thing that's happened here. And my understanding, it's some more new tires in the making right now. I think Mitos is making a tire, if I'm not mistaken. Parks. And I want to say they're going to debut them at the farm show. I heard. I'm not sure of that.
I think Parks is building a tire as well.
I think Mitos has got. I think they got something to do with that tire, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But yeah,
I know somebody said they had them on display at Lexington at the horse park. I did not get up to the booth to see it, but somebody said it's shaped just like the Mitos, the tractor tire. It's shaped the same way. That square across the top, straight down. So
that might change things up a little bit in that class. David, speaking of tires, we kind of brushed on this a little bit last weekend. What kind of tires do you run in your class, as far as everybody runs pretty much what?
Yeah, you see a little bit of everything in my class, just like you see the different frames and different motors and whatnot. But it seems like the Nichols tire, the 34 by 18 tire, is the number one tire to go to. Now, Michael Shiflett, I believe, is the only person who has jumped out. Temple Brizendine, he also purchased a set, but he runs the Hemi class. I don't think he's had a chance to run these yet, but he actually got a set of double cuts made by Mayhill. But Mike, he put a set of the Mayhill tires on the back of his truck. They are a little bit heavier. They're like the old Dixie Pex, but Mayhill refined it a little bit. I believe he made it a little bit wider, changed the cleat pattern up a little bit. He seems to think it's made a difference. I believe he's only got one hook on it since he changed the tires, but we may be going through the same thing where, these Mayhills may be the next best thing since sliced bread, and then everybody's going to buy them, and then we'll all be running the same tires and finishing the same place. It depends on who gets the setup right. But you'll still see some old CPEX. I know RB and that yellow submarine we were talking about. At least as far as I know, he's still running the old CPEX on the front. They got, the staggered cleats, one bigger on one side, one bigger on the other. They got cords showing, and I've always heard those old tires with cords don't work good. But you'll see tires like that. You'll see some pit bulls all the way around. You'll see Nichols, and you'll see Mayhills on everybody's different trucks. So we'll see if we're going to go down the new the Mayhill rabbit hole, I guess you could say.
Chad's probably hoping for that, Dave.
Yeah. Hey, I've seen that tire, and it's a good-looking tire. I don't know if it's going to make a crazy difference for us. I do know they add a little bit of weight But from the seat time Michael's had on so far, it does add a little bit of weight if you're going to run them on the rear of your truck. You're going to have to pull maybe 100, 150 pounds out of the box to make up the difference on them. But I don't think that hurts you some tracks. We run a fairly light sled coming out the hole now. It's more of a speed sled. We'll run 30, 32, 34 miles an hour on that thing. So it's all about how quick you can get the sled going from the start. And I think sometimes having a little bit heavier rear will help you with that. So it may not be a disadvantage at all.
For sure.
Well, we'll find out this weekend, and you might be having to order you a set after this weekend. So we're going to find that out.
Yeah, I've had some pretty good luck at our event these last 2 years. So if Mikey slips up and gets me, I might be looking for a set of Mayhills. You never know.
Well, I tell you what, while we got a second, let's throw the commercial up there about this event, the Big Daddy. The Dome, the Big Daddy Winter Nationals.
Winter Nationals are back. Truck pulling at the Bob Martin Ag Center in Williamston. January 16th and 17th. Pit party at 6:30. Show starts at 7:30 both nights. 4x4s. Wheel standing 2-wheel drive. Modified street and more. The Big Show. Friday night is Kids Night. Kids 10 and under free. General admission $20. Advance tickets just $15. For discounted ticket info and locations, go to BigDaddyMotorsports.org. January 16th and 17th. Truck pulling action is back at the Bob Martin Ag Center in Williamston, North Carolina. Sponsored by Lee Chevrolet of Washington. Duck Through Food Stores. And Image Advertising in Elizabeth City. Remember, that's BigDaddyMotorsports.org.
That was the fast version.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring this up. The big trucks. Driving one of those. So, Jelly, when the front end gets up, you're going to use your wheel brakes to steer it. Logan, you know this as well. Wheels come up, you're going to use wheel brakes. David, how do you steer that truck when the front end gets up high in the air?
I know how I steer mine. You got to back off a little bit and turn the wheel and hold your head out the window because you can't see nothing inside of that truck. The truck's already, 15 foot in the air, it feels like, when you're sitting in it. And then you stand that thing up, you can't see a thing but the crowd to your left and to your right, and you're not going to see the line on the track. Nobody has tried the whole left and right brake thing on these trucks yet. I have talked about building another truck a little more competitive in that class with a blower motor. And I had thought about doing something like that with a plexiglass floor. Because one thing I don't like about that class, you really can't see nothing in that truck when you stand it up. That's why you see them get a little crazy sometimes. They get to the finish line and the truck will be, come back down and the right tire will be on the line and the whole left side of the truck's over the line. When that thing stands up, and it seems like the higher you get, the worse it is. As it stands up, the hitch gets lower. And if that left tire or right tire gets some traction, it's going to sling you one way or the other, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's definitely a fun class to drive in and a fun class to watch.
Well, I was hoping Jelly was going to get back on here because I was going to ask him the same question because this track goes from 30 foot wide to 20 foot wide. We talked about this a little bit last week.
Yep.
Do you ever get a little nervous when you get close to that gate?
I haven't yet. I haven't had a situation where I'm too far off from one side or the other track. And plus, I guess you can say you get a little bit of tunnel vision, when you're sitting there on the starting line, whether you're on the left or on the right, you're going to shoot that truck right for the center of it. And as long as the truck is working with you a little bit, it's not too bad. But when you get these two-wheelers, it gets a little bit different. These trucks, if you catch a little bit of traction on the right side of your truck towards that finish line, you really got to be matching on that right brake to keep yourself away from that gate.
Yeah, that's always something. Watching them, you just have to pick a point and shoot between the trees, and because if not, it's going to be a long ride home.
And do they link to that chain on those tall trucks? Do they link to the chain on the sled, or is it the same chain as what the?
No, it's the same setup. We don't change anything, and we actually run between. I think most of the guys run a 40 to 45 inch hitch height on these trucks. I know mine personally, I probably got closer to 50, 55 with a little extension on that thing, and it stands up a little bit too much, but it's not a competitive truck. It's an old small block running against these blown big blocks. So we try to have some fun with it when we do take it out. I come off the line, the sled stops, so we'll start plowing dirt like a disc, when I get about 15, 20 foot down the track and it stands up and we're rolling. But you see some different setups. Some guys run a fixed hitch on the frame in the back. Some guys run a drawbar style. I know Brian Self with that blown to pieces blue Ford. I think we had a picture of him up here earlier. He actually changed his up a little bit where he has some moving suspension in the rear of that truck, but he still has a drawbar. So the drawbar is actually moving with the suspension, and it seems to have made the truck lay down a little bit better. So even these classes, you got some different setups from, one truck to the other. I think you can see a little bit of that blue truck right there. But everybody's always looking for a main advantage on this class to see if you can get the truck to lay down straight. So,
yeah, there's a lot, just like any pulling vehicle, that goes into it. Jelly, Bert had a couple questions for you, and then you disappeared.
Yeah, I got one question. Do you ever get ever get nervous going through the gate? When you get up close to that gate, do you ever get nervous?
One time I did. It when you get the front end up so high that you can't see the gate, you kind of get that feeling of where it's trying to figure where the gate is at. But I've done it 1 year, and I got a couple guys that stand at the end of the track and hold their hats up so I could see. But I done got good at that now of kind of picking out something at the end of the track, like in the roof, like just kind of know where the gate is at. I mean, still you're going through from 30 foot down to what, 20 foot is what that gate is. It does get a little nerve wracking when to go down through there. But
that's a story.
But other than that,
we had Rob Guy's Garage on. He was telling me a couple stories from the Alan Gaines' era of stuff, where the headlights on that truck were big spotlights, and when that truck would pick and stand it up on its tail, Alan would pick. He could see those spotlights in the roof of the pole, and that's his guide down the track because you can't see anything else.
I always thought he had like plexiglass or something he could see through the floor, but I looked at that truck when it was at Kentucky at the Invitation, and it's a full floor truck. It don't have windows in the bottom. It's the old style truck bed. So he had to look at something up top to pick out where he was going.
There you go, David. Put some spotlights on the truck this weekend.
Hey, if it would work, I would consider it. That's for sure. That's definitely a different idea.
Yeah. No, if Alan can make it work, anyone can make it work.
Just go with the Luke Skywalker thing, let the force be with you,
Did you ever make a pass in the dome with the mods, Bert?
I made a couple of passes in the dome. We've burned a few ceiling tiles out in the process with the flame show. But I always had a good time. But the reason why I bring up that gate is because there was one time I got flying down. I guess they had me a little light. It was me and Dale Burleson. And I got flying down, and all of a sudden, the track always pulled me to the right. And I got moving hard to the right. Man, I just backed out and locked up the brakes because I knew I was going to hit that wall. I knew it was coming. And I backed out, and my uncle's like, "Why'd you back out?" I said, "That wall was pretty daggone close." And he goes, "You had about 4 foot." I was like, "It didn't feel like 4 foot."
That's what you need to do there is you take and get some like big old lights or something. Just put a big old light on a stick. Straight up at each one of the posts.
I tell you what I am going to do. I've got a couple of extra cameras. We're going to put, I don't know if I'd have a camera after the show was over, but I thought about putting a camera right there on that gate, that exit gate, to show you how close. There was a couple of two-wheelers last year, the Alley Cat. What's his name? I can't think of his name. The guy with the Alley Cat. I could not get my hand between the front of his truck and that gate. That's how close he was on it. I mean, that's how tight it gets. But that's what makes it exciting. If you got a chance, go to the Dome. It's worth going. Great food. Everybody gets to walk around, talk to everybody, have a good old time. And let me tell you, the action gets crazy because, like David said, with the mega trucks, you don't know where you're going. Jelly's even said it. It gets a little hairy. I'll tell you, it gets hairy when you get down to the end when you're going 30 mile an hour. Okay. So it's a great family event. Bring your kids out there early, get some autographs. You ain't got nothing else to do in the winter. You just got off Christmas. You know, you want to sit in the house and watch Matlock, you want to go to a track show and see the right? So, you know, Williamston, North Carolina tonight, or this weekend, folks. Friday night, Saturday night. Things get kicked off at 6:30. Showtime right at 7:30. No doubt about it. You can't miss it. Come talk to David, because I tell you, David, you got to run your mouth quite a bit this weekend, and I know Jelly likes to talk.
Well, and you'll be there, and Schultz will be there with you, right, Brett? Right?
Yep. Schultz will be there, and Mark Kenton is going to help us with some videoing. So we're going to be kind of all over the place. I guess I'm running it, and Schultz is going to be on a camera. Mark's going to be, I'm not sure what we're going to have him doing. We're going to have him probably aggravating you driver guys a little bit. So we're going to be everywhere this weekend.
No, you
That's
guys
what it sounds like.
You guys have a lot of fun. It'll be a great show for sure.
I've got one more question before we wrap this up. David Whitley, what are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Oh, man, I think the biggest thing I always look forward to is seeing everybody that comes out to the show. You know, it's an opportunity for me to meet a lot of new people that are getting into the sport of pulling as far as the first time they've ever came to one of these events. Especially being in the winter, you definitely draw a different type of crowd than you would at a brush pull in the middle of the year. You know, you get a lot of families that come out that have never been to a truck pull, don't even know what it really is. So introducing people to the sport's always nice. A lot of the pullers, I get to see them once a year because we don't run together in our class, or the organization that I run in. So we always get to hang out at the hotel on Friday night. Sometimes it gets a little crazy over there. And seeing the kids come out and check these trucks out, get a chance to meet the drivers is always good to see.
That's awesome. Bert, what are you most looking forward to?
I just to see everybody, hang around, run my mouth, talk to folks, and just kind of pumped up about that's Mark Kenton, by the way. He goes by NTPA Voice on Facebook. So just seeing everybody, just hang out and talk to everybody. I always enjoy it because this is a lot of these pullers that are there, like David's dad, Ken Whitley, and you got Bird, and you got a lot of old school pullers that are there, and we kind of reminisce on some of the old stories of some of the old crazy stuff that used to happen, and you know, talk to those guys. So you know, I'm excited. This winter, it's motorsports. It's going to be noisy, and I get to smell some methanol.
Jelly, what are you most looking forward to?
I guess to get back to the dome, you know, I've loved this place. Vicky with it that runs I think she manages the dome. I think, David, is that right?
Yeah,
she always when we come in, she's, you know, comes there, you know, talks to you, and she always thanks us for cleaning the roof, you know. So I guess we're the dusted. So, but we give it a once over, and I guess it's the main thing is I don't know if y'all was talking about it earlier about the things that you see, and you get to, you know, listen to the fans talk and they ask you questions. I think the one that really gets me the most every time we go somewhere is, and most of the time you see it from the women or the kids, the guys usually it don't bother them, is they look in the driver's seat, and that drive shaft comes right under your seat. And the first thing it goes, you let that go right between your legs, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, all of that power goes through under there, and you can feel it rattle in that seat, you know. So it's amazing the questions that the kids can get. So, you know, I like hanging around with the kids, and that's a big part, to see a smile on their face when you can answer a question, and they like to get in the truck. So that's the big thing. The pit party is a big thing. I think it's going to be the kids is what we're doing this thing for, to hopefully get some of them interested in it, to do it later on in life. You know, I got a little one coming on, and he loves it. He's not but 2, but man, all I got to do is see a pulling truck, and he's ready to go. He's got side piece. He's got that name down now. He just wants to go sit. Let's go get in side piece. So we'll see. We'll see how far it goes from there. So, awesome. Yeah, that's the main thing. So,
Randy, what Randy things are you looking forward to this week?
Oh, Boy, we got like I say, we have the Ohio Fair Managers is this weekend, and so like I say, we'll probably book 40, somewhere between 40 and 45 events. So we'll probably talk to 50 or more promoters. It's a big weekend to get it all laid out for us, and of course, we're in the hotel downtown Columbus, so we'll have something on the TV. Probably try to do a split screen with full pull down at your guys' event, and then we'll do probably the Winter Nationals as well. Just that way when people come in, we can always, and we'll have some of our videos going too for Ohio. But yeah, just getting through all that. It's a lot to take in. This will be my 10th year on the executive board down there, working on it. And then I've been, we promoted for 28 years at the county fair level. So it's a lot of fun, see a lot of people, but, just getting out of there without catching the cold, that's going to be my main goal for the weekend.
Hey, Randy, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming, you bought that mini sled. Is that the first sled you've ever had?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the biggest difference from going to being involved in pulling to having your own sled? What's the biggest difference in that change you've noticed?
No. Wow.
I feel like I know the answer here, but
how much battery life do you have?
Yeah.
How much battery life do you have? I tell you, you have to. I don't even know where to even start, Dave. I really don't, because it's been there was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of phone calls all over the country. Jeff Hurt and Jeremy Smith, and Kenny Lucas with the team fantasy. They got blown 4-wheel drives. We all talked a lot about this, and just the mechanics of it, of being sitting back there, and you have to be able to, when you're like, I guess to back up that up, when you're pulling and you're on the outside, and somebody crashes or whatever, you're always there like, oh my. But when you're sitting back there in that cab and something happens, it took me a long time to mentally try to get over that, to like, if something would happen to somebody, one of the pullers in front of me, there was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of conversations about what you would do and how you would handle that. So that was my toughest thing to get over. And then after that, once I finally got over that, then just the snowball effect of just, trying to prepare your sled versus not pulling a truck or pulling the minis. And another thing that's tough too is, like we all know, when you go pulling, you pull one vehicle, and there'll be a few nights you might be a little sore, you take a rough ride. The first night I ran the mini sled, I was in Roanoke, Indiana, and there was 12 of them out there. We went pulling, come home the next day, and I'm telling you, I thought I'd been beat to death. I'm like, what happened to me, And then I got to thinking about it, when you pull one vehicle, you kind of take a rough ride. Well, I had 11 more of them to take, and I'm like, oh my. So it is a whole different dynamic sitting in the back of the boat versus the front of the boat. That's for sure. And I don't know. I definitely don't regret it. It's a lot of fun. But it definitely have a different mindset when you go to the event. That's for sure.
Yeah, a lot more responsibilities, but I would imagine.
For sure. Yeah, I tell you that. And we were I truly think the pizza shop chick and I were very, very blessed to be able to buy that purple sled from Vaughn. That thing's a pretty bad hot rod. Everybody likes it. And Donnie and I spent quite a few hours on it, and he taught me a lot of things. Then Josh Morgan has 2 Bauer builds here in Ohio, but I tell you, it's very simple, but yet very complex in that cab. And you make sure you have your thumb right on top of that button to pull the ripcord, and then there's a fine line there between, are you going to drive out of it? Aren't you going to drive out of it? So you put a lot of, we laughed about it earlier there. We talk with Luke Skywalker quite a bit, I hope the Force is with us, But yeah, there's a lot more back there. And I advise anybody of if you could ever ride in a big sled for a couple licks, it's well worth it. Gives you definitely a different aspect of it for sure.
So I had the ability to ride in the big sled a couple times this past summer, and being both in the boat and in front of the boat, it's very much similar to what it feels like going down the track, except you're not strapped into anything.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
just there floating around.
If you watch those guys, they'll have their feet. And I talked to Logan about this. He gets in there, and if it's certain classes, 4-wheel drives, mods, or like if he gets in with the minis, he's like bracing his feet. He's like bracing himself, like getting ready to go. The same way with Eric Lloyd and them on the UPOC side. You'll see in certain classes, they're like just okay. What's going to be the best way to, handle this ride?
To brace yourself, yeah. Being a promoter, I've had an opportunity to ride in the sled, more so just, if I got something coming up, some Temple who runs a sled at our events that, hey, we're going to be pulling a monster truck out here, throw some T-shirts out, you'll have about 10, 15 minutes if you want to go take a break or whatever, let them know intermission's going to be coming up. You get a chance to ride in the sled. And something that I've noticed, when you're in the hot seat, you're driving the truck, it's a different feeling because when you're driving, you're focused on where you're going. You're trying to focus on driving the truck. You don't necessarily feel what it's doing as far as speed wise, but when you ride in the sled, it is a crazy difference to me to feel how much that thing will push you back in the seat. And then when that pan drops, you better be holding on or your face is going to be meeting that windshield of that sled very fast. And you don't notice that. At least I don't notice that when I'm in the truck, but when you're in that sled, you better be holding on.
That's the deal with like the minis. We'll be doing 35, 37 mile an hour down the track. And then it feels like you just take the seat out of the vehicle and hang you by your straps like you got a big old parachute on. I mean, it just feels like you're being held up horizontally by your belts holding you into the tractor. That's just how fast you come right back to a stop.
Yeah.
And just every bump you feel it's like the real deal. It's just weird.
I know when something happens. The last event of our year, this year in Kershaw,ton Ohio, we were clipping down through there, Cody Edwards, and the wire tie broke, and so his kill switch come right out. I'm telling you, when that box hits the top like a ton, it'll shove you right into the steering wheel because it was just before the trip went off, so that thing went to the top in a hurry, and I'm telling you, it'll clean the armrest right off in that thing. I learned you don't take water bottles with you. You better be able to go without them because if not, they're all gonna be on the floor. That's for sure.
Yep.
So
Eddie Faulkner used to run the UPOC, the old mini sled. And David, I don't know if you may have seen that one around your area. I don't know where it ended up. But it used to be called Little Booger Dig Until You Get It. It was the nickname of it. But he did the light 4-wheel drives, and I know David knows about him because that light 4-wheel drives is a UPOC class. It's a North Carolina class. And every time he would get through with the light 4-wheel drives, all it had was a strap belt. He would get off, and he would have a bruise from one side of his stomach to the other because of the light 4-wheel drives. He found a way to make some extra padding in that old sled because them light 4-wheel drives would kill him.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That's the deal, and I see Jeremy chiming in on it.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in the seat of a vehicle, time slows down. There's no way around it. It's a weird phenomenon. And a run that takes 15, 20 seconds takes 2 minutes in real time kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird. Maybe it's because we always pull on the whatever you guys like to call the normal time zone or
real time.
The real time.
We're in real time over here. He's a little bit back over there,
At least I don't have to stay up till midnight to catch the evening news.
I gotcha. Yeah. So what's your outlook for the weekend? I mean, you heard all of ours. What's yours?
Oh, the good old outlook. Stay on top of schoolwork. That's the first big thing you got there. Do that, get good grades. And then, of course, second to that comes keeping the shop afloat, making parts, building the pulling budget out for this next year.
There you go.
And then third, just keep working on stuff. Stuff's got to get done one way or another.
Yeah, that'll be great. That's good. That's good.
So yeah. No, it's been a great night tonight. You guys, what else do you got, Randy and Bert?
Go ahead, Bert.
Hey, I was just going to kind of close it out. Let's go to the pool this weekend. What else you got to do?
Yeah, that's great. Maybe we can give a highlight reel chat with you guys on Monday for the highlight reel of how everyone's weekend went. That'd be fun.
Yeah, get you on for 10, 15 minutes and see how the event went for you guys.
Absolutely, that'd be a lot of fun, and good luck. And it was great speaking with you guys. So I gotta apologize. I'm sorry I was late. We had a couple little township deals that lasted longer than it should have, but you know how that goes. But yeah, good luck, and hopefully you guys have a great event. Great talking with you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
Stick around. But as for all, it's been a great event tonight, and we will catch you right back Monday, 7:30 Central, 6:30 real time. And if you're not doing anything, make sure you're there, Williamston, North Carolina this weekend. Let's make it happen, boys. Good night, everyone.
Today.
Well,
Let's talk about today.
Grand national state level, you have to run non-sales, wholesale.
Is like 9,000.
The only mistake I made, I didn't put her in a registration movement.
Just this ever-evolving story.